Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Welcome to The Uplift. We've got a great show for you today, great cast of characters as well. A group of coworkers who witnessed a disaster while at work decided to rush to their neighbors. Also, a dog running loose on a California freeway. Yikes, scary sight captured on camera. The story does not end there. Two parents who were inspired by their 4-year-old daughter to dedicate their lives to helping others. Also, a father of 3 who found himself homeless, and the complete strangers who came together to give him hope. All that and more coming up on The Uplift. Hey there, I'm Tony DeCopel, and this is The Uplift, the show that lifts you up for the next 30 minutes, you and me as well. And we're going to begin with a story about a group of coworkers who sprang into action to help their neighbors. Caitlin O'Kane has their story.
There aren't many people besides firefighters who would run toward a fire. But when the employees at PSR Mechanical in Seattle saw their neighbor's building in flames, they sprung into action because their neighbors are dogs.
You could see the smoke pouring out of the building, and the noise from the dogs, from the emergency responders, the firefighters, police, everybody that was responding. So there was a lot of noise and it was chaos. And, it was one of those situations where we didn't know exactly what to do, but we knew we had to help.
Smoke rose from the dog resort, a doggy daycare in Seattle's Lake City neighborhood. Greg Hagan was one of the employees from the HVAC company who raced over, despite the risk, working with other members of the community to save about 60 dogs.
So there was about 9 of us, and we all took different roles. There were some of us that raced over there and grabbed dogs. There were some people that helped secure the yard so that there was areas where small dogs couldn't get back out into the street. There were employees taking care of the dogs, playing with the dogs. And at that point, it was great to see because a lot of dogs had kind of settled in. It was like they'd been given a new play park. So they were starting to have fun and run around throughout our yard. And that was very cool to see.
Not only did they calm scared pups, but anxious parents who came to pick them up.
They had taken their dog there that morning and had seen it on the news and were absolutely frantic and would come up and, oh my gosh, do you have our dog? Do you have our dog? And to those people, I'd just try to be calming. Hey, we've got a bunch of dogs. It's going to be okay. We'd take them over the fence. And to see their faces once they saw their dogs it was very emotional. There was a couple of us that were pretty close to breaking down in tears as well when you see people show up and see their dog playing in the yard and that it's safe.
None of the dogs were harmed in the fire, and their neighbors have been hailed as heroes.
Yeah, it was a chaotic moment and wouldn't want to go through that again for sure, but we're just glad we could help. And one of the really cool things that happened was on Friday, the mayor actually came by and got to spend some time with some of the employees and gave us a little letter of recognition. And that was really a nice touch by the city of Seattle.
They say dogs are man's best friend. These heroes are dogs' best neighbors.
Exploring the great outdoors, moving on to our next story. It can be difficult for many people with disabilities due to the lack of mobility of their wheelchairs. Well, a program in Georgia hopes to get more people in wheelchairs out onto the trails, no matter the terrain. Here's Mark Strassman with more.
A walk in the woods in search of nature's glory. Fresh air, a light wintry breeze, the sun's warmth. Seems so simple. But not for Mario Sanchez, who's now 41. Since he was 2, muscular dystrophy has been telling him no. That's about to change with his motorized all-terrain wheelchair, part of a new Georgia program championed by Amy Copeland.
Clean, fresh air, sunlight. It is a game changer. It's a life changer.
After a 2012 ziplining accident gashed her calf, Copeland contracted a freak flesh-eating bacterial infection. To save her life, doctors amputated both her hands, her right foot, and her entire left leg. Someone so active, no longer able to walk. She was 24.
I gave myself a nice pity party. I can only do that for so long.
Her foundation pushed the state for years to allow these all-terrain wheelchairs to create moments like this.
It is a freeing experience, being out in the middle of the woods with the sun on your face and the breeze and the trees and the birds.
Melanie Dunn, a double amputee and assistant director at Copeland's Foundation, says the response to All Terrain Georgia has been phenomenal.
Just imagine that you can never walk again, and that's what it's like to be in a wheelchair. And the person that is in this chair all of a sudden is just blown away.
On the edge of Georgia's Sweetwater Creek State Park, just west of Atlanta, Mario Sanchez heads out for a family outing.
Into the woods we go.
The park's path has uneven terrain. Rocks, branches, occasional standing water. For him, all the usual deal breakers.
I'll put it up to 3.
But Sanchez suddenly is a half-mile deep in the woods, immersed in its wonder.
That's so cool. It really handles good.
For the first time in his life.
It's a blast, it really is.
Liberating?
Very, very liberating.
Sanchez found himself on a path he had never traveled. What a difference.
That's cool.
Nicely done, Mark. All right, coming up, a frightening sight on a California freeway turns into a serendipitous moment. Plus, a group of strangers share one goal: to help a man living on the streets of Claremont, California. Time now for a heartwarming video, the kind you just need to see on a day like this, taken when the Elon University women's lacrosse team traveled to Fairfax, Virginia for a game. And it was in Fairfax, Virginia that they found themselves in a little bit of trouble. The team bus got stuck there on a patch of I don't know what, but it was nothing for this group of athletes who worked together as a team and used their strength collectively to push the bus free. Love that. All right, a scary sight now on a Southern California freeway. All of it captured on camera. Let's go to the videotape. It was a dog bolting down a busy freeway. And what unfolded next is a story of heroism and serendipity. Here's CBS Los Angeles' Jake Reiner with more.
From a death-defying rescue to a pretty warming reunion. That's the dog's name, Pretty. And her owner, Jay Segura, is
so happy to get her back.
But Pretty's journey was a near-disaster experience. Segura says he left Pretty at his in-laws' house in Sun Valley for the weekend, and he says she must have escaped through a hole in the fence. Here she is on Friday morning, scampering on the northbound 5 freeway in Arleta.
I just seen her look around on TV. It looked like she was looking for us still, and it's just, it was heartbreaking.
As traffic slowed down to help her, one driver in a pickup truck tried to save her. But Pretty eventually picked her fighter, Glendale nurse Amber Stride.
She just hopped right in. She just probably had a feeling I had 4 other dogs.
Stride's father, Mark, just happened to be watching the news, but had no idea it was his daughter that scooped up the pup at the time.
And I says, "Are you kidding me? I was watching I was watching that all happen."
So knowing your daughter, this all made sense to you?
Well, she's used to saving people. She's a cardiac nurse, so she saves people all the time, but now she saved a dog.
Segura tells us Pretty doesn't have a microchip, but he did just purchase a GPS collar.
I'm just overwhelmed with joy and appreciation for him, and I can't wait to get her back home.
After spending the weekend at Amber's and a visit from a mobile vet to patch up Pretty,
I just changed the dressing today, so just keep it on for like another couple of days.
Amber really bonded with Pretty, and Pretty really bonded with one of her dogs, Poncho.
Definitely bittersweet. I'm glad they have their dog back, but I grew attached to her for sure.
Poncho and Pretty getting along famously right now. The owners say play dates could be in the future. We'll see, but as of right now, they seem pretty inseparable. In Northridge, I'm Jake Reiner, KCAL News.
Inseparable, that's a good start. All right, I love that follow-up. Coming up, when their daughter was diagnosed with a rare genetic disease, these parents did all they could to take care of her, as any parents would. And now they're focused on taking care of others. Stick around. You're watching The Uplift. When 2 parents in Northern California discovered their daughter had a rare disease, they started doing everything they could to help. And now they are focusing on helping other kids just like her. Here's CBS San Francisco's Lesla Gooden.
This is 4-year-old Leah, who loves to color, take pictures, and spend time with her parents, Rosalind and Justin Porcano. She's full of energy, and by looking at her, you may not know that at 5 months old, she was diagnosed with Usher syndrome 1B, better known as USH1B.
That when I was at my doctor's.
At least 6 appointments a week, standing. And then doctor's appointments, at least, seeing a specialist at least once a month.
It's a genetic disorder that causes issues with balance, deafness, hearing loss, and over time, vision loss. For Leah, she was born deaf, and already she's lost her night vision.
Which is retinal swelling, happens with maybe less than half of all Usher syndrome patients. So it's definitely causing some blurry vision.
Within a year of the diagnosis, Leah's parents wanted to do all they could to help their daughter to be able to navigate the world independently. So they started a parent-led organization right here in their home called Save Sight Now, after discovering there was a need for more research for this particular rare disease.
We actually contacted the Foundation Fighting Blindness, who is the biggest international inherited retinal disease foundation. We pitched this idea of like, hey, would you be our fiscal sponsor? We want to fund through you USH1B research. We want to maintain our brand and our identity as Save Sight Now and who we are. But we're happy to raise money on your benefit if we can make sure that funding's restricted for USH1B research.
Can you give it to me and I'll go change it?
And changing out the batteries in her hearing aids that are sewn inside her pink headband is just another daily routine. Just 4 years later, the organization has been able to raise nearly $2 million. Right now, they're funding 4 research projects with the goal of creating treatments for their daughter and others like her. Already, they've been able to spread their cause globally with other parents.
They're like, oh my God, even the parents are working now where it's like, we are incredibly thankful that you're doing this, that you've created this framework and this structure. And that's always been our goal. We never imagined doing this alone because it is wildly hard to do alone and it takes twice as long.
With this act of love, there have been changes made for Leah to preserve her eyesight, from light dimmers around the house to tinting every window. And while Rosalind is cutting back her time as a personal chef, both parents are spending late hours trying to connect with more people willing to help. On those hard days, they say Leah is what keeps them going.
Pretty good reason to keep going. All right, coming up, meet the man who found himself living on the street and the strangers who, he says, saved his life.
I think you saved my life because you probably did.
So much changed in your life just in those 3 weeks you were with them?
It's only because of one thing. They really do care. Reverend Jessie Smith, she really cares. My friend Dr. Dave Neska really cares.
Why don't we end this with me giving you a hug?
Why not?
Okay.
To our final story now, David Begnaud introduces us to a father of 3 who found himself homeless in Southern California, and he felt like people treated him as though he didn't matter. But a group of strangers recently came together to show him he does.
I didn't want to do this story and have you look like a fish in a fishbowl that we were just looking at.
Okay. And I appreciate that because respect is a good starting point.
Meet Cashman Whiteley.
You have had an incredible amount of kindness shown your way.
Here lately, I sure have. And I am grateful for every bit of it.
Whiteley has no home, but for the past few weeks he's been sleeping here at the home of Carmen Flores and her partner, Tatiana Guerrero. They had seen him on the street, looking really sick and sleeping in front of a church.
On a cement cold slab, and the church didn't open its doors. I was like, okay, if our institutions aren't doing it, then we have to do something.
As a young man, Whiteley traveled America working carnivals.
Yeah, see here, peanut butter.
Money, he says, was always tight. And after a divorce, the life of this father of 3 spiraled. In 2000, he landed in Southern California.
Didn't have money to rent a place to live. I didn't have a way to get started. So I simply wound up on the sidewalk.
Could you find a job?
No. After 10 years with the carnival, I had no verifiable job references. I have no address, and at the time, no phone number. No, the employers they have their standards, and I'm below it. I have been told, go away. No, you can't have a job application because you're homeless.
And how does that feel, Cash?
Actually, if I hear it one more time, I'm going to melt down because it's wrong. Because if I'm actually a human being, I should have the same chances as everybody else.
The 59-year-old avoids homeless shelters.
I have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I am not accepted by other homeless people. I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I'm different than they are.
This is the story about how a group of people in Claremont, California, who did not know each other, stepped up to help him, and in the process, they saved his life. Starting with Flores and Guerrero, who housed him and fed him.
Jesus left us this sacrament.
Jessie Smith is a part of that group too. She is pastor of St. Ambrose Episcopal Church, where Whiteley showers twice a week and attends services. Pastor Smith, who along with her husband has taken Whiteley to multiple doctor's appointments, says he gets offended when people don't treat him as if he matters.
I saw it over and over, going to the emergency rooms with him, calling the paramedics, having the police call him on him here or there or wherever. He's not seen as a human. He was seen as a nuisance.
Whiteley had been ignoring a growth on the left side of his face until the pain became unbearable.
It was so bad that I just screamed uncontrollably. I mean, literally, at the top of my lungs. And people would call the police, and the idea was get rid of him. They would take me to the clinic. The clinic would send me to a dermatologist. The dermatologist would just say, well, just put this cream on it or take these antibiotics, which weren't working. And then I'd be screaming again, and this went on for a year.
Dr. David Nasca is a retired pathologist who met Whiteley on the street. He called some of those agencies that were giving him the runaround.
I kept calling, and it eventually threatening. And
what makes you emotional?
Well, seeing somebody suffer like that in front of everybody, and nobody was taking any initiative. Nobody cared about him.
He tried to get something done. Now, for that, I can say that he has tried to be a good friend.
The diagnosis was skin cancer. He wanted immunotherapy, but his Medicaid insurance plan didn't cover that. So that's when counselors at City of Hope, a comprehensive cancer center, gave him just that, hope. They helped him to change his insurance so that he would qualify for the care he wanted. Flores and Guerrero, who both work in the healthcare industry, went with him to advocate for him.
So this is much better.
That immunotherapy is working wonders.
How do you feel?
Well, I feel a lot better than I did 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I feel like I was dying, and I probably was.
If you ask him how he feels about Flores and Guerrero,
I think they saved my life because they probably did.
So much changed in your life just in those 3 weeks you were with them?
It's only because of one thing. They really do care. Reverend Jessie Smith, she really cares. My friend Dr. Dave Nasca really cares.
Why don't we end this with me giving you a hug?
Why not?
Okay.
With people like these in my life, I've got to land on my feet. I can actually see a much brighter future.
It's in good shape?
Oh, you better believe it only has 82,000 miles on it.
well, that future got even brighter. Back in January, Flores and Guerrero took him to look at a vehicle, and he liked it.
We ask that it be something that help him in his journey moving forward.
An anonymous donor gave Pastor Smith the money for Whiteley to buy it.
In the name of the Father, and the Son,
And the very next day, some members of the congregation were there when it was blessed.
How much money do you have now?
I got about $20 and 3/4 of a tank of gas. Not too bad.
Where are you sleeping?
I'm slipping back into the car right now. You know, it's because I'm still in transition phase.
Right now, he is convinced that better days are ahead for him. And it is partly because of those people who showed him that he matters.
A month ago, it was like, you know, will somebody just hurry up and pull the plug on me and just get it over with? You know, because I was just exhausted. I can see myself getting better now.
Yeah,
I can see myself getting back to doing some type of meaningful work. You know, and that I find very hopeful.
David Begnaud, CBS News.
Speaking of meaningful work, David Begnaud does it. And that is our show. I hope it was meaningful to you. Hope it brightened your day. Hope it lifted you up. If it didn't, reruns are free. It's true. I'm going to go find some good news.